What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're here to talk about some free agent linebacker targets for the Detroit Lions this offseason. So let's get it started.
I got to shout out DoseOfDion, man, because it was actually the first time I went live on YouTube. And, guys don't know, DoseOfDion, he put out a lot of good content for the Detroit Lions.
Everybody, see that video. Glad you guys are here. And hold up, before we get this thing started, I know y'all see it. Dan Campbell soup shirt. What? Okay, like kneecap soup. Dan Campbell's. It came in last night. Came in off the Dodge shop last night. I was hyped. All right. I was excited to see how good it came out. It came out really good. It did. It really came out good. So I know a lot of you guys ordered it. I'm excited for you to get it because I think it came out pretty fire. And again, when you guys get it, hey, send me some pics. All right. Shout out to everyone that did get one of these shirts. I also ordered my Motor City Dan Campbell sweatshirt, my hoodie. Oh, that was coming in soon too. Okay. I'm sorry. I got that express shipping and everything, man. I'm like, I need to get this thing here. So, but I do appreciate you guys that got one. And again, send me pictures when you get it. But it came out really good. Now, the blue, that don't come with it. I'm just cold. Okay. It's just cold up here. Today, we're talking about some free agent linebacker targets for the Detroit Lions. But we have a lot of guys to talk about. I have 8 players currently on this list, and it could be expanded. But here are 8 linebackers that have really stood out to me. And I've tried to look at a lot recently. And here are 8 that I do like for the Detroit Lions. Trying to get a little bit of a mix here between older guys, younger guys, different styles, different price tags. I try to get a nice little mix, and these aren't in any particular order. But the Lions linebacker group right now is completely up in question. I mean, first off, there could be a change of scheme. We don't know what's going to look like with the defense because there are new defensive coaches here. I mean, it's a whole new coaching staff, new defense coordinator, new linebacker coach, new secondary coach, new head coach. So the defense could look completely different in terms of what players they want to bring in. Also, out of the players that we currently have, no one has really said, hey, this is my role. I've earned this role. No one's really solidified themselves on this roster. I don't think anybody's safe. The closest guy to being safe to me is either Jelani Tavai or Jamie Collins. Tavai because he's young, or Jamie Collins because he has 2 years left on his deal, and he probably was our best linebacker last season. But aside from those two, I mean, even those two involved, really no one is safe on this linebacker group. So everything could be changed. Now, I do like the draft for linebackers as well. And obviously, you have Micah Parsons at the top, who could be a top 10 pick. But then you're looking like at the end of the first round where you got some really nice talent there. I really like the talent early. I like it in the mid-round, second round, third round. And there's a lot of linebackers to like here. I mean, Jabril Cox, Chaz Surratt, both those guys I think could be like day 2 picks. You look at Zaven Collins, you look at Nick Bolton, if you wanted to go that kind of route. There's a lot of good options out there at the linebacker position. Then you go a little bit later, maybe you have a Justin Hilliard. You got Tuff Borland, you have Baron Browning, you have Cam McGrone from Michigan. There's a lot of options at the linebacker spot. So I am excited to see if the Lions can land some in the draft. But if they want to take a peek at free agency, I think there's also a pretty solid amount of good options out there for the Lions. Discussed wanting to bring in his core guys, finding the core pieces this offseason. And if that is in free agency, I think some of these guys could be core guys for the future. We'll talk about them individually. Let's get it started. The first player we have on this list today is Jon Brown, the linebacker out of Tennessee. 6 foot tall, 226 pounds, only 25 years old. He is set to get a pretty big payday. As you guys can see, projected 4 years, $47 million is the projection or a prediction that I saw. That probably won't be the exact contract, but it's going to look like something like that. Now, last season, he did miss some games. He only played in 10 games due to an elbow fracture. He missed six games. And last season, he did have a little bit of dip in the games that he played in terms of, how he graded out. But Jon Brown is a linebacker that fits the NFL very well today. 6 foot 226, that seems undersized. And while people still say he's undersized, really in the NFL today, a lot of linebackers are around that size because of so many nickel packages and how many receivers are on the field. You love to have linebackers that can help and benefit and help you in coverage where they're not liabilities on the field. That's why we're seeing these 2-down early linebackers. They're just not as valuable anymore. They're not getting paid as much. But guys like Jon Brown, those are the type of players that are going to get paid. And for a guy like Dan Campbell, who said he's looking for core pieces, Jon Brown, we know, is probably going to be one of those core pieces. And potentially having a little bit of a dip last year, missing some games, could make his contract a little bit cheaper. Now, you can see some of those coverage numbers. Over the last 3 seasons, he's been a top coverage linebacker. In 2019, by PFF, he was ranked, I believe, as the 5th best coverage linebacker in football. He's also pretty darn athletic. He's good in pass rush as well when he's asked to do it. Not a ton, but when he's asked to, he can get pass rush. Jon Brown could be a little bit cheaper than a guy like Matt Milano, so that's why I put him on here. here instead. Now, Jon Brown to me is best in zone coverage. That's where I think he's at his best. And he's the type of player because of his ability and because of his, size and speed and athleticism that he could drop in a deep zone. He could drop deep over the middle, help on in routes, deep in routes, crossing routes. He's the type of guy that can, give you that kind of help. And not everybody on this list can, right? We have a whole bunch of different type of players, but Brown to me can give you that. His struggles really is run defense, but he's still expected to get paid a lot because that's the kind of NFL that we're in today. He's a little bit smaller. I mean, look, again, these are the type of linebackers that I see in the NFL, but he's still not a very big guy, and that can be an issue in terms of run defense. His run grade is so low isn't necessarily because he's not a secure tackler at all. I think it's because, it's finding himself in that situation where, first off, he's not super built. Like, he's not a huge guy that can just take on fullbacks and take on big offensive linemen inside and just fight his way through it. And he also is very position versatile because of that. So he bounces around different linebacker spots. So they move him at different spots, which means he's not always going to have the consistent production in terms of tackles, but he's just not built that big. Some other guys on this list are very compact type of guys that get in there, they can take on a blocker head on, and you can use that to get some leverage and get in there and take the running back down. Not necessarily the same style here for Jon Brown, but he's the type of guy that can go sideline to sideline, running back down, catch him on the outside runs. That's kind of the difference. I mean, it's not that he can't tackle, it's just that he needs to find a way to get himself in a position to make the tackle. But his ability to be on the field for really 3 downs and to really help you in passing downs is what makes Jon Brown so interesting. He also has a very high motor. He's very confident. He's a very confident player, and he brings a lot of energy to the team from what I've seen. So isn't a bad tackler. He's actually pretty reliable. He doesn't miss a lot of tackles. I mean, as you guys can see that stat, less than 10% missed tackles over the last 3 years. Each of the past 3 seasons, he's missed less than 10% of his tackles. And for linebackers, usually see a pretty high amount of missed tackles. He doesn't have that. So while at times he can be taken out of the play, maybe not, the best at getting off of blockers, or maybe he gets himself in the wrong position, what you will notice is that he's a young guy that can fly around the field. And once he gets wrapped up, he doesn't miss a lot of tackles. Jon Brown's expected to get a pretty nice payday from somebody. And if the Lions wanted to look that route, it could be Brown. He's going to fit what today's NFL is looking like and what it may continue to look like. Really nice closing speed, sideline to sideline, jumping down on screens, just collapsing plays, running down a quarterback. It's that kind of thing. Not the most athletic guy on this list. We'll get to that in my opinion, at least in terms of speed. But he can kind of just fly around the field. Jon Brown, someone I really like, super excited about, and he comes in at first. Keep in mind, there's no particular order on this list. So we start off with a guy that's expected to get paid a pretty good amount of money, over $10 million a season. But the next player we move on to is very different from the last guy in Jon Brown. This is Denzel Perryman. Now, I wanted to put Denzel on here. As you can see, he's backwards. I had to flip him because of, the image. But I wanted to put Denzel on here because he's just so different. He's 5'11", 240 pounds, so definitely a little bit shorter. The last 3 years, 51 out of 78 completion percentage, 82.3 pass rating, 3 touchdowns and 2 picks. Those are good stats in coverage. He just isn't asked to do it very much. That's why below that I say 2 down linebacker. All right. A lot of people gave him comparisons to Ray Lewis, and no, he's not Ray Lewis. Definitely not a Ray Lewis. But people give him comparisons because of his play style. He's not the tallest guy, but man, does he hit with authority. This guy will lay you out. And the reason that I think this could be interesting for the Lions is he's 28 years old. So as you can see from the projected, probably a 2-year, maybe a 3-year deal, probably something like that for the next couple of years to help out. But the reason I think he's interesting is because he's that type of play style that Dan Campbell likes about Jarrad Davis, the type of guy that will split your chin open. What he does well is he stops the run very well. And look at that grade, 86.3 grade. It's the play style that Campbell likes, a guy that maybe doesn't fit today's NFL that much. Now, 51 out of 78 completion percentage, that's pretty darn good. 2 picks, 3 touchdowns, 82.3 pass rating. Those are good numbers, but they're pretty low because he's just not asked to play on those downs a lot. So he's not a complete liability if they do pass on early downs, but he's usually not the type of player you want to put out there on 3rd downs. But maybe you pair him with a guy like Jabril Cox in the draft, or you get a safety or someone that you can bump down there and you can go to nickel and you can get him off the field. On early downs, he's a tone setter, and man, does he hit with authority. I love watching this guy hit. It's projected that he gets a 2-year to $13 million deal, which wouldn't be super expensive for the Lions, about $67 million a season. And if the Lions wanted to go that route, they could. The issue is he's not the youngest player, so that's why it's 2 to 3 years. And the other issue here is he's not fitting the great mold for today's NFL. He grades out spectacular what he does. Really good against the run. I mean, very good against the run. Like I said, he sets the tone and hits hard. The issue is he's just known as a run defensive linebacker, a two-down backer. And in today's NFL, that's not what's popular anymore. So that could lower his price, which is great if you want a guy like that. The issue is you're going to have to make sure you have guys out there for third downs and for passing situations. But Perriman is exciting. And I'm telling you, if there's a guy's highlight reel that you want to watch, he should be very high on that list. Neville Hewitt. Now, Neville Hewitt is someone that I honestly forgot about, but he took over a big role this season because I believe CJ Mosley opted out of the season. The 6'2", 234-pound linebacker that is 27 years old. But man, this past season, his production just absolutely skyrocketed. However, Neville Hewitt, who's been learning and working with CJ Mosley, when he got his opportunity this year, as he was placed at inside linebacker because they needed someone to fill in that role, in a team that really struggled, he shined. His production was incredible. You can see that 134 combined tackles. Now, 16 missed tackles is a tad concerning. A little bit like Perriman. Maybe not to the same level, but he is very powerful in the way that he hits. And he also can get after the quarterback as well. He has some nice speed to his game. Also notice he's not terrible in coverage. Like, he's not the #1 pass coverage guy that I think you would go after, but he does have the ability to drop in and man-to-man and cover a running back out of the backfield or a tight end. It's a lot of underneath routes is where I see him in coverage, but I've seen him on occasion, follow a running back on a wheel route, but it's a lot of underneath things. That's where he gets his most, that's where he got his most work. 70% completion percentage, 93 passer rating allowed. They're not great. They're not great numbers, but he is okay at it. He's not the best pass coverage guy out there, but he's okay at it. So again, he's not a liability on the field, and he can play 3 downs. He can play all downs. A little bit more reliable to me in pass coverage than Denzel Perriman is. You'd go with more of a Neville Hewitt, but the production is great here. I mean, the Lions really would like to have a guy that can just rack up the numbers. I mean, he's just getting out there making tons of plays, and Hewitt could be that type of player. It's projected he gets a 2 to 3 year deal because he is 27 years old, and that's kind of what a team could be looking for. Not a complete liability in the passing game. How he's a former undrafted free agent, how he's worked his way to where he is out of Marshall as an undrafted free agent to just this breakout year, and now he's ready to get his opportunity to get paid. That's an absolute great story. Now, the next player that we have on here is Anthony Walker. He is a linebacker from the Indianapolis Colts. It's kind of been like a nice little 1-2 punch, with Darius Leonard. See, he's 6'1", 230 pounds. And what you'll notice about his game is, he's not the best in coverage. Okay, that's definitely not a strong suit. But Darius Leonard has really helped out in coverage because that's what he's good at. But Anthony Walker is a player that's only 25 years old, really good against the run. A very smart player. Now, he doesn't give you the type of athletic ability that some other guys do where they can just completely fly around the field. He did run like a 4.65 40 time, I think, coming out of the draft, which is definitely more athletic than Tavai, who ran like a 4.86. So he's not, he's not that unathletic, but he's not, looked at as a type of guy that'll just fly around the field and, can almost look like a safety at times. However, a guy that can play at that inside linebacker position, and a great fit with Darius Leonard and working with him. You can see the stats, 92 combined tackles, only 6 missed tackles. He is a sure tackler. He's the type of guy that doesn't miss many tackles whatsoever. 6 missed tackles for 92 combined is kind of rare. All right, he's a very sure tackler. He's still very young. He is known as one of the smarter linebackers in the league. I mean, that's what all I've seen about Anthony Walker is the praise that he's gotten for his football IQ, how smart he is, being in the right position, how instinctive he is, how any play, wherever the direction is going, he just finds a way to be there. He's always in the right position. I mean, that's the type of things at his game where he could slide in and fit because he's just such a smart linebacker, and he could be a piece for a very long time as he continues to improve in places and areas like pass coverage. But it's that you don't have necessarily that speed or crazy athletic ability there, which is something that may not improve. So that's the concern about him. But he's not slow. I mean, still, a 4.65 for a linebacker isn't slow. I mean, that's just the kind of NFL that we're in today. But 6'1", 230, he fits a solid size linebacker position, and he could fill in the inside at that linebacker spot for a long time to come. He's only 25 years old. I don't know what his projected contract is. I'm not completely sure. It may be down a little bit because he's not the best in pass coverage. He's known to be way better in run defense than coverage. But that could mean you could potentially land him. Could be someone that you keep around for a very long time. Anthony Walker's a cool guy on the Indianapolis. Nicholas Moreau is on a Raiders defense, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people look at that defense that's really struggled in the front seven, and he really just did his thing. I mean, he's 6 foot tall, 225, so definitely like a Jon Brown type of size here, but he's only 25 years old. Not his strong suit is not the run defense, which is kind of like the opposite of Anthony Walker. So it's kind of which route you want to go there. His strong suit isn't run defense, but his strong suit is coverage. He was the best coverage linebacker for the Raiders last season, and he can do a lot of different things, all right? He can follow slot receivers. He can match up in a lot of different areas. He can play zone. He can kind of do it all. 44 out of 66 completions allowed, 84.8 pass rating. Those are great numbers from a linebacker in terms of coverage, and you can see 66 targets. It means he was out there putting in a lot of work, and he had a to fly around, but he can cover a lot of spots. I really like him in zone, especially in underneath routes, drag routes, because he's really quick. A 4.52 40 coming out of the draft. That's really good speed from a linebacker. One thing that I have noticed about his run defense is at times you can kind of see maybe a lack of aggression, and maybe that's his issue, but that could also have to do with his size, but it's kind of waiting for the run game to get to him, not necessarily being as attacking. So maybe that's just a mindset that can be flipped if you work with a different coaching staff. So that's one thing I noticed with run game and probably why he grades out lower, but that also could be his size. Maybe he tries to put more on. He's definitely a different type of player. Now, his last deal was only a 1 year, $3.25 million deal, which makes me think that maybe you could somehow get him kind of cheap. I mean, maybe not that cheap, but if you could get a player like that, maybe a little bit more situational, still played, that's why I put that in there, 65 to 70% of snaps the last 2 seasons. So he's, somewhat situational, but he can play a pretty good amount of the snaps. Second, third down, you could have him on the field, maybe less first down if you have an option there. But that's why you like him, because he fits today's NFL, that kind of mold, maybe not super expensive, and he was the best coverage linebacker for the Raiders. And he also can pass rush as well. So he kind of just flies around. He has that athletic ability that is very difficult to teach. Looks like a safety is a little bit bigger at that linebacker position, but that's what the NFL looks like a lot today, so that's why Nic Moore comes on here for me. Next up, we have a former Minnesota Viking. Actually, well, I shouldn't say former Minnesota Viking until he is a former Minnesota Viking, but that is Eric Wilson, a 6'1", 230-pound linebacker that's 26 years old, that played outside linebacker last season, and he was, again, known for his coverage ability. Now, with the Minnesota Vikings, they missed a lot of pieces defensively, whether that was through opt-outs or injuries, so he really had to step up, and he became like the guy in that linebacker group for the Minnesota Vikings, missing a lot of pieces. And with that opportunity, you can see the numbers. He put up 122 combined tackles, 17 missed tackles is a pretty good amount of missed tackles. But in coverage, I mean, those coverage numbers are nice. 69 completion percentage, 74.3 pass rating, 2 touchdowns to 3 picks. Those are great numbers in coverage. Eric Wilson is set for a payday because he's not super small, so he can play on early downs. He racked up the tackles when he got his opportunity with Minnesota, and his coverage is already really good. That's kind of what he's known for. You can see projected $9 to $10 million a year, which means he may be gone from Minnesota. He is a very overlooked, I think, player that people don't really know about in free agency, and if you can get him cheaper than that, great. I mean, I think this is someone that could end up being a steal somewhere because he's just not talked about that much. I'm sure NFL teams know about him, but I don't think a lot of people do. But when he got his opportunity last year, because Minnesota was missing some pieces, and he was like, okay, we need someone to step up, he stepped up big time for them, and he was just did what he did well already in coverage. He racked up huge numbers. Now, missed tackles are a little bit of a concern. He's kind of a do-it-all type of linebacker that could potentially be a 3-down linebacker, I think. I think he could be a 3-down linebacker for a team. So that's Eric Wilson out of Minnesota. I like that guy a lot. He is not talked about very much, but he is expected to get somewhat of a pretty nice payday there. Next linebacker we have on this list is Lavonte David. Now, Lavonte David is one of the most popular linebackers. Not my favorite, but there are a lot of things to like here. Now, he really hasn't slowed down that much in production, even though he's 31 years old, which is what concerns me. I don't think the Lions want to go with a linebacker that's 30 plus at this point. I think they're looking for younger guys, especially if they're going to get about a big deal, because the Lions aren't in a position where they think they're going to win now. They're in a position where, okay, look, if you want the vet, you could keep Jamie. If you don't keep Jamie, then I guess you could go this route, but it's one of those situations where I think they're going to want to go younger if they're going to spend a lot of money. Now, Lavonte David could be a short-term deal, which he's probably going to be. That's why I don't think he fits perfectly with what we're looking for. However, he is Mr. Do-It-All, in my opinion. I mean, he's never off the field. You can see that 99% of the snaps, he does everything. He can drop into coverage. He can get after the quarterback. He can tackle. Now, last season, a little bit of a dip in terms of coverage a little bit. You can see a lot of 75% completion percentage, but he does everything. He's only had one season with less than 100 combined tackles. Who knows? I mean, Tampa Bay's got to pay some guys as well, so we'll see. But his ability to basically just do everything on the field and be out there every snap, be super reliable, and, can kind of give you whatever you need is what makes him so phenomenal as a player, okay? Because he's not at all situational. He's not someone that's ever a liability. He can literally do everything on the field. The age concerns me, but I guess the good thing about it is he really hasn't seen much of a drop-off in terms of production. Like I said, coverage went down a little bit last year, but for the most part, he's pretty much still playing at a high level, playing at a very high level compared to a lot of other linebackers. So, yeah, I think for certain teams, this would be a really good fit. As you can see, I put market value. He's expected to get market value with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which is kind of the issue here, because that's going to mean he's going to get as paid as like a top 5 linebacker to potentially top 10 linebacker. That's what's expected. Maybe not, but we'll see. Now, finally, we have KJ Wright. Now, this is another vet, 31 years old, 6'4", 246, KJ Wright. KJ Wright, like Lavonte David, has been extremely reliable. I mean, over his entire career, has been reliable. And again, last season took maybe a little bit of a dip, but for the most part, I mean, every year you can rely on KJ Wright. Now, he can set the edge. He played on the outside. He's a type of guy that could potentially replace a Christian Jones. Again, if you wanted a vet, but I'm not sure if the Lions are looking for a vet right now. I mean, I'm not sure if the last two guys fit because I'm not sure if that's what they're looking for. But if they're looking for a vet, I think it's definitely be cheaper to bring in KJ Wright because his last deal was 2 years, $14 million. That's much cheaper than I think what Lavonte David would be. Maybe you can go even cheaper than that. But for the most part, I mean, again, this is another player that can do everything. Now, he's not the type of guy you want to put him in coverage like 10, 15 yards down the field, deep zone. You don't want to do that. To me, he's kind of transitioned himself to more as, okay, I'm going to play closer to the line. I'm going to set the edge. I'm going to really help against the run. I'm going to be a very smart player, and I can help on these underneath short routes, you know, screens, flat routes, maybe a drag, that kind of thing. But you don't see him dropping back deep into coverage like some of these other guys can. He's also a little bit bigger than that, but that's why he fits the mold of someone that could help on the edge and really help shut down the run, but also be intelligent in short underneath passes and help you there. But again, he's not the type of guy that you're going to want to put out there as saying, okay, drop 10 yards in coverage. But it is a vet. He is a very smart player. And like I said, every year he's super reliable. So that's KJ Wright to finish off this list. So I think that was a nice little mix of kind of everything here, right? You got the guys who are good in coverage. You got the couple guys who are still known to be like run stoppers, so they could be cheaper because of that. Coverage guys to me are just going to be more expensive because that's what the league's looking to. You have a lot of young guys with the potential like Anthony Walker, if you want to keep around Walker for a long time. You also have Jon Brown. If you want to give out a pretty nice deal to those two guys, potentially Nic Moore, who I think has still something to prove, but he's got a lot of athletic ability, or even an Eric Wilson. Now, those are the type of guys that I think will be kind of expensive, but they could be core pieces for this team to go on for a while. Lavonte David, KJ Wright. Now, Lavonte David, way more expensive. But both those guys, vet players, maybe for a couple years, if that's what the Lions think they want help right now, and they want a vet, if they want that kind of experience and they don't really want to get all young guys, then maybe that's what they could do in free agency. If they want to draft a couple linebackers and they're like, okay, let's get one vet in free agency, KJ Wright, I think would be the ideal fit. But you could also look at a guy like David because he can literally do everything, like I said, and he could teach anybody. And then Neville Hewitt, you got Neville Hewitt, you got Denzel Perryman. Those are two interesting players that I think aren't talked about a lot. Hewitt to me is a really nice player because of what he did last season. He's going to be cool. And Denzel Perryman just makes me think of something that Dan Campbell would like. Tons of other linebackers you could put in this list. Avery Williamson, for example, who's expected market value. Matt Milano, who's expected market value. I was trying to look at options that weren't necessarily the most expensive, like we put a couple expensive ones on here, but I was trying to get a nice little mix and just kind of the guys that I like personally for a Lions fit. But I think there's many other guys you could put on here, okay? I don't want to make a 20-player list. So comment down below other guys that you would think that would fit the Detroit Lions. I try to do my best to limit myself because I will go completely overboard if I don't set a limit, and I will name like 50 guys, and it's like, okay, this makes no sense. You can't name every player. So I really had to set myself a limit. So that's why I kept it to 8 for this one, but there's tons of other linebackers that you could absolutely name out there and look for. But I try to get different styles, different price tags, different ages, different types of linebackers in this video, and a guy that I like for each one of those situations. So those are 8 linebackers. Let me know your thoughts, comments below. Who else would you be interested in bringing in? Thank you, Brian, for watching, and I'm out.